Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my latest foray into heartbreak and anguish, which is also known as my Fool's Fate rating vlog. I just finished Golden Fool a couple days ago and thought that I had been pushed to my emotional limits by Rob and Hobb, that I had been hurt as much as humanly possible. And then everybody was gleefully prepared to tell me, just wait until you read book 3. Can't wait to see you read book 3. Can't wait to see your reactions to book 3. So I imagine that book 3 is going to take what Golden Fool did to me and increase it exponentially, but I am ready. It has been torture to wait. And I was reading a really good book. I was doing a buddy read of a book that I really ended up enjoying that was very easy to read. It was not like I was being tortured by being in a book that I did not enjoy. It is just that the second that I finished Golden Fool, I already wanted to be in, I don't know if my camera just glitched or not, but I already wanted to be in Fool's Fate. So I am prepared. I'm not prepared, but I'm prepared. And I am excited and scared and really need to read this book. So I am casting off the rest of my TBR until this is done because I can't imagine stopping. It's just going to be this for the next couple days until I know what happens. But I am at chapter 5, so I've read the first 4 chapters, and there's been a lot that's been happening to set up the story. So far, plot-wise, what we've had is Fitz preparing to go on his battle, Fitz having a conversation with Hap, Fitz spending some time with Swift, Fitz having interactions with the Fool, both alone and as part of the coterie, and then Fitz having an interaction, a dream interaction with Nettle. So those are all really important things that have happened. I guess we'll start with Fitz and Hap because that's just Hap. Like, he's stuck in this cycle, and I can't decide if I feel like Fitz is being an overly permissive parent because he doesn't want to come too harshly on the side of stopping him from doing things, or if he genuinely just trusts Hap and, you know, what's going to happen, make your own mistakes, etc. But I personally do not trust this girl to have Hap's money, and I'm scared the Fitz is going to go overseas and that he's going to come back to find Hap destitute or something. But maybe she'll surprise me. Maybe she genuinely was telling the truth and is not taking advantage of him, and it's going to turn out really well. I don't know, but I'm worried about that part of things. The interactions with Swift and Fitz have me of two minds. So I think it's very interesting to see how, as an adult, Fitz is looking at Swift's life and making certain judgment calls and, you know, deciding what he should or shouldn't say, how he should or shouldn't act. And I think a lot of what is coming out is Fitz's own regrets about how he behaved when he was young, his own fears about what could possibly happen, and his own beliefs that, you know, he comes into as a 35-year-old man. So I think it is a little easier for Fitz to kind of stand on the outside and look at how Swift is acting, which is, you know, as someone who is made of Burrage, so is very stubborn and prideful, but also wants to be proud of the part of himself that his dad has told him is awful and should be stopped, and, you know, is a hidden, secret, disgusting part of himself. So is he being a little blasé about the danger? Probably, but he's a child. You know, kids do that. They think that they're immortal. They think that nothing bad's ever going to happen to them, that, you know, that he's been told by the queen that people who are witted are accepted, and so he's going to flaunt it and be proud of it, and he doesn't care to keep it under wraps. So that part is interesting. Now, finding out from Nettle in the dream sequence where Fitz met up with her in her dream, finding out that she actually helped Swift leave home, run away from home, was a big reveal. It makes me feel a little bit bad for judging Burrage so harshly in Golden Fool, but I still think that, unfortunately, Burrage's stronger personality traits, his own stubbornness, his own pride, his own fears, impact his parenting. And so I imagine that it probably was really difficult for Swift in that home, especially if Swift is proud of this witted part of himself and is feeling lonely and isolated and cut off from his siblings, which is probably just made worse by his dad saying, you know, this part of yourself is bad. You know, you're the only one of your siblings, presumably, who has this trait, and it's bad. You need to try to get rid of it. And so I can understand how that would be very stifling for him. Do I think that he's going to take Fitz's money and return home? I don't know. I feel like this could go one of two ways. I feel like either Swift will genuinely run away, and so then he will be either off at sea on the boat, like a stowaway going on this journey, or he will return home and somehow Burrich and potentially Nettle will put together the identity of Tom Badgerlock slash Shadow Wolf slash Fitz Shivery Farseer. So lots of possibilities there. I don't know what direction it's going to go in, but I am looking forward to seeing how that plays out. And saving the most painful for last is just one interaction between Fitz and the Fool, and I'm already ready to shed tears. So just the conversation where you see that the Fool is clearly ready to die, that he fully believes he's going to die and this is what's going to happen. He's, crashed his identity of Lord Golden into the ground, been behaving as presumably the biggest, cad slash lecher slash, dandy that he possibly can, throwing away all of his money, making people think that he's doing all these things. What do I actually think he's doing is probably finding a way to get to the glacier that doesn't depend on the ship, but making everybody else kind of turn against his persona so that he doesn't have this identity anymore. And I'm sure it's very hard for Fitz to watch his friend do that. And then the interaction that they had during the skill session where the Fool comes in and he asks Fitz if it's okay for him to, touch him, for them to join through the skill. And then when this incredibly intense experience that Fitz himself describes as more intimate than romance or a kiss or a sexual coupling, by the way, and then Fitz throws him off, not because he's not enjoying it, but because he doesn't want him to find out what is happening, that he's hiding things from him, which I'm pretty sure the Fool already knows, but not wanting him to find out about him being banned from the boat. And then when Fitz kind of like breaks away and says that it was too much, he, couldn't stand it. And so we have to see the Fool heartbroken again. And then I highlighted the Fool's quote when the Fool says, "It affected me," the Fool said quietly, "but in a different way. He met my eyes and said, 'It didn't frighten me.'" And Robin Hobb knows how to twist the knife. We're 4 chapters in and I'm already a mess. So there's lots happening. Interested to see which characters actually do end up on this boat, who is going to be taking part in this journey, where the Fool is going to come in, and obviously what's going to happen from there. So expect many long check-ins. I'm sure we'll go past the 40 minutes of the last reading vlog as I succumb to Fool's fate. All right, time for another Tawny Man check-in, Fool's Fate check-in. I have once again been a very bad vlogger and have not highlighted any parts of the book or any passages or anything, so we're just going on vibes. But I thought this would be a good place to stop. I don't remember the chapter that I'm on. I don't have my Kindle in the room with me, but I think I'm like 35% in, and it's about 1,000-ish pages, like a little bit less than 1,000 pages. So I guess I'm at page 300 and something. So the part that I decided to stop at was when Fitz realized that the Fool was at the glacier, which we all knew was going to happen. He was going to find a way to get there. So Fitz was having dreams about the Fool. He was having nightmares about the Fool, and now he has arrived and the Fool is in fact there. So that is where I stopped, and I think the story is probably really going to pick up at this point, but there has been a lot of interesting things that have happened. So a lot of what has happened so far has been interactions between Thick and Fitz, and just more heartbreaking interactions, more difficult passages where people are obviously not understanding of Thick, of his differences, and where Fitz has to learn what it is like to experience a different kind of social isolation. He has felt so socially isolated, he has felt left out, but with Thick, he's able to appreciate what is actually happening, right? What is going on, how that affects someone, and it has made him rightfully angry. There's a lot of different character interactions that are happening. So most of that is between either Fitz and Webb. And I will say, so Webb has given Fitz some very appropriate insights into his personality and why he probably finds it difficult to interact with others. But I don't know if I'm just too much like Fitz in that I am also a very private person who does not like to take advice from a very stubborn person too, who doesn't like necessarily, is fine giving advice, doesn't always like to take advice from other people. So I don't know if maybe that's part of it. But I just find Webb to be sanctimonious sometimes. Like I want to like him because, you know, he's soft-spoken and he's welcoming and he knows about the wit and he's old blood and he wants to help Fitz. But when people are too nice, sometimes I'm like, this is like, it's feeling a little sanctimonious at times. So I do want Fitz to learn about his power, because I think because of the prejudice in the Six Duchies, and including Fitz's own prejudices, right? And the lost lore and knowing so little about the wit, even compared to the skill, which they don't know a ton about, I think that everyone is underestimating the capacity for the wit to be helpful and useful. And so I think if Fitz learns more about that part of him, about that part of himself, more about his magic, then it will be interesting to follow. So I do hope that that happens. And it seems like Webb is going to be the best chance of that happening. So gonna have to deal with him and hope that he really is just a nice guy and I'm just a grumpy person who doesn't want to see that. Fitz and Swift, so difficult. Fitz, it's so hard for him to identify with other people. And part of that, I think, is self-inflicted. Dutiful really calls Fitz out on that in this section of the book, saying, you know, you're always doing things without knowing if they're the best thing, and you're just making decisions for people, and you're deciding that people are better off without you, or people are better off not knowing information. And I do think that Fitz is genuinely trying to save people, specifically his daughter, from going through the kind of pain that he experienced as a child, youth, adult, and set her life on a different, happier path. But I also think that Dutiful is right, and people should be allowed to choose what happiness means to them. So I understand Fitz's protective side. I understand the opposite viewpoint, but it's just hard to watch Fitz be alone and feel so alone, because I really feel for Fitz. I love Fitz. Fitz is my favorite character, one of my favorite characters, maybe my favorite character. He's up there in my favorite characters of all time. And I just, I have a really, really hard time watching him kind of stumble through things alone. I thought, so the other big relationship obviously is between the Narcheska and Dutiful, and there are things happening, I assume things that are linked to the other possible White Prophet, because of the Narcheska having the same tattoos that the Fool has, and that she is in this somehow. I'm assuming that old woman who's following them around, whose name I don't remember but starts with an H, I assume she's either related to that person or maybe is that person in disguise. I don't know. But I think that something to do with her must be what is preventing the Narcheska from fully being engaged in this betrothal. But it seems like Dutiful and Eliana, the Narcheska, are falling for one another. And I think that's genuine. I believe that that is genuine, and there is obviously an undercurrent of pain, and there is some mystery underneath all of that that is happening that's related to the dragons. And I just know that the Fool and this other woman are at odds. So whatever the Fool wants, which is return of dragons to the land, is the opposite of what this other person wants, which is for dragons to not come back. So I'm assuming that's where this quest and that, you know, where that has come from. But now that the Fool is here, I'm expecting more interpersonal drama. I'm expecting for the story to really take off from this point. So I think up to this has probably been our introductory part of the story. And now we're going to get into the second phase. The reckoning between Fitz and Nettle is obviously coming, and I don't imagine she's going to be very happy about it. She seems to have a fierce personality, just like Fitz. I think some of the difficulties that he has and some of his less appealing traits are probably going to be ones that she shares. And so it's going to be interesting to see how she comes to that news. I don't think she's going to be hurt. Like, I don't think that the dragon's going to hurt her or anything like that at this point in time. But I do think that there is a reckoning coming on an interpersonal level. So it's just messy times for Fitz, and we'll see how it goes. So that is the check-in. I will try to be better and highlight things that I enjoy or like or want to talk about, so this is more coherent in the next check-in. But the Fool is here. I am happy to have him here, but also now am scared about what is going to happen. So we shall see. Okay, I've secreted myself away upstairs to do a very short update for Tawny Man. I think the last update that I did was when the Fool was spotted in the distance, and I just stopped reading at the 50% mark. I think that was like the 33% mark or something, if I remember correctly, but it's been a little bit since then, mostly trekking across the iceberg, which, you know, Robin Hobb can make trekking across an iceberg seem interesting. So just because I'm interested in what everybody is doing and how they're interacting, Fitz being unintentionally / intentionally poisoned by the brownie or cake or whatever, and his skill being sucked away was very sad. And now he's feeling, I just feel like every time I'm like, Fitz is so isolated. You know, the desolation of the iceberg and Fitz's temperament are playing off one another. You know, this is how we use atmosphere and setting to demonstrate our character's inner turmoil. But in all honesty, watching him go through the kind of high of taking the stimulant and then the crash of coming down from it was really hard and was really sad. There's been a couple important conversations with the Fool, and now the witted coterie has helped them find the place of the dragon. And I'm gonna be honest, the reason that I wanted to check in, because I didn't highlight passages. I don't, like I said, I don't have a lot to say compared to how much I usually have to say. I really just wanted to say that I'm feeling this creeping sense of doom that has nothing to do with the bad thoughts that are swirling around everybody. So, you know, Thick being potentially enthralled by the dragon, Fitz not having access to his skill, everybody being upset and grumpy and having nightmares, and Nettle being mad and closing herself off from everybody. That's not what is giving me the sense of doom. What's giving me the sense of doom is how this can possibly resolve with Dutiful needing to slay the dragon, but clearly not wanting to slay the dragon. The Fool not wanting the dragon to be slain. Chade wanting the dragon to be slain. Fitz not knowing what he's doing. I'm starting to worry that the only way that the dragon is going to go free without Dutiful feeling like he has failed his kingdom is Dutiful not making it through this expedition, which I'm really worried about, because now that I have latched onto this idea, I just keep thinking about the fact that Nettle is now in the castle. She now knows what she could potentially inherit. She's made comments about how she doesn't like lessons and she doesn't like being put in this position. And I don't know, there's something about what's happening that's making me scared that neither Chade nor Dutiful is making it back from this iceberg. And so that is my ongoing fear right now. And I'm 50% through, and they're at the dragon. Like the dragon, they've found the dragon. So what is the other 50% of this book going to be? I don't know. And I'm worried, and I don't know, scared about what's going to happen from here. So I just read the chapter where Fitz finds the Fool's body, and it was too sad. And I know that something's happening now. He put the crown on, and he's gonna do something. I don't know if he's gonna bring the Fool back, or I don't know what's gonna happen, but it doesn't change everything that he found out had happened and everything that the Fool had to go through. And I just thought maybe, because I knew the Fool had to die because he had foreseen it, and I thought that was going to mean that he was forged, and then when everybody else came back, he was going to come back, and then we didn't see his body, and so I don't know, I didn't know how it was going to come out of that. And even if he does come out of this, even if there is a Fool, because I still assume the last trilogy is called The Fitz and the Fool, so he's got to be there somehow. It doesn't negate all of the pain that happened, and just I did highlight one line. I'm gonna find it. When the pale woman tells him that she can give Fitz all of his dreams if he goes with her, and he he says that his dream is dead in his arms, and it's just I shouldn't even be recording this because it's nonsense. Isaac is definitely gonna think this is cringe, but I just can't remember the last time I was this sad reading a book. And Burrage is dead too, which is forever, presumably, and that is also very sad, but I just it's just too much sadness happening all at once. So I am gonna go read what happens next, and hopefully it'll be okay. Okay, so I picked Juliet up from swimming. I came back. I read the next chapter. I'm feeling more settled now than I had been, but the Fool did come back, as I suspected would happen. It was interesting to see that how it came to be, putting blood into the wormwood. I'm assuming that's what the crown is made out of, and having some piece of himself there, the coming together with Fitz, them being as two parts of a whole, and then going back into his own body. Obviously, the Fool has been greatly impacted by what happened to him, the trauma that he went through, but it's been interesting to see how that goes. I really did like the part where they went back to the dragons and the Fool had made the bargain to get that part of Fitz's soul that he had given away back to him. And I do always enjoy that idea of we cannot get rid of the bad parts of ourselves without also somehow diminishing the good parts of ourselves. So Fitz giving away his pain, his hurt, his sense of betrayal, and how that impacted him, and how he wasn't really able to move forward or embrace the joy in his life. So it was nice to see that come back, and to see his wit senses get stronger, and potentially his skill get stronger too. I don't know, but it was what a roller coaster of a time. Ooh. And I don't want to make it seem as though I don't care about Burrage dying either, because I was just so wrapped up in everything that had happened to the Fool that I think the main... I live near an airport. I don't know if you can hear the plane, but there's a big one going over. I think it's just the manner in which the things had happened, right? Burrage came back. He got to reconcile with Fitz. He got to apologize for the things that he felt he had done wrong. He got to better understand his son and make sure that his son understood him. And then obviously he sacrificed himself to save his child. And I think for Burrage, that is a way, a death that he can come to terms with and be proud of. And even though I am really sad that a lot of that emotion did get wrapped up in the horror of what had happened to the Fool and how Fitz was kind of going through that. The whole sequence with the dragon coming out of the ice was really fun. I genuinely thought for a second that Chade had blown himself up in the explosion. So I guess my sense of doom for Chade and Dutiful has passed. The bad things that happened were not related to them. I did like that Thick just tricked everybody and stayed on the island. I told Chade I was with Dutiful. I told Dutiful I was with Chade. Told everybody else not to see me, and here I am. So that part was good, and hopefully he's okay, and hopefully he decides to go home. I'm guessing maybe they're gonna go home through the skill pillars instead of taking a boat. I don't know, but I don't want poor Thick to be on that island forever. He deserves to go home and meet Nettle and have cake. So hopefully that will happen. I also liked that Fitz did not kill the Pale Woman. I don't know if they're going to run into her now as they're walking back through to get Thick or not, but she didn't deserve whatever it was that she wanted him to do to her. I loathe her, but I understand why he decided not to do anything. So I am not sure what's going to go, because let me see, I'm 82% of the way through. So I'm at chapter 31, and there are, 37 chapters? So, and an epilogue. So I don't know what is going to happen with the next 6 chapters. The last 6 chapters of the last book were kind of like a winding down of sorts. So I don't know if that's what it's going to be. I am happy that Eliana and Dutiful seem to genuinely love each other. So hopefully that means that it'll be a happy marriage between the two of them. And I don't know what I expect to come of Fitz going home. Somehow I don't think that Nettle is going to be happy to learn, if she does in fact learn, that he's her father, especially since Burrage left to go after them on that quest. I feel like there might be some blame there. I don't know what's going to happen. I also don't know what's going to happen between Fitz and Molly. I know there's a lot of, she was my love, she was my last love, but I I just feel like too much has happened since they were both teenagers to go back and kind of jump into that old relationship, even though Burrage had said, I want you to go back. I want you to take care of them. I feel like that would be, I don't think that would serve either one of them very well. So we shall see. We shall see what happens. I do want Fitz to go back and be Fitz chivalry, Fitz chivalry. I don't want him to go back and be Tom, so I don't know. And poor Hap, gotta see if he's been, strung along by his true love forever, or if they've actually, managed to be good for each other. But I needed to check in while I was not riding the high of so many emotions. And I'm sure I will leave the last check-in for when I have finished the book. All right, I am done. I stayed up until almost 1 o'clock this morning finishing it just because, I couldn't not finish it. And I will say, I think, try not to make too bold a statement, but I really think that this might be my favorite trilogy ever that I have ever read. Because Lord of the Rings sits perpetually at number one, if we consider the Lord of the Rings a single story, which for the purposes of this sweeping statement, I will. But Tawny Man was excellent. It was so incredibly good. Just the writing, the characterization, the story, the emotion, everything came together to make a nearly perfect series. And I will say, just to be a contrarian, I guess, that Golden Fool remains my favorite. I think that it's the one that feels the most slice of life, I guess. It's just, following Fitz and all, and seeing them work through their emotions is very emotional, and it didn't feel like a bridging book to me. It felt like its own contained story. That being said, Fool's Fate was amazing. This was a 5-star book. I loved it. I wouldn't change anything about it. It did not feel like an 800 or 900 page book, whatever it is in whatever edition is holds the official word count, but it did not feel like a book that was that long. And I just found myself always wanting to pick it up and always wanting to read. The end of this book, so I'm trying to remember, I think I have my emotional time, the chapter about the Fool, and then kind of the follow-up and what happened and how the Fool came back. So following that, I think I said, what are they going to do with the rest of this? Like, what's Hobb going to do with these other 6 chapters? And it really was a wrapping up of the story. We got to see Fitz return to court, and I liked the compromise that he settled on, being Fitz chivalry. That's so hard for me to say. Being Fitz chivalry to all of the people he cares about and the people he loves, and still being Tom to everybody else. I think if I have a single criticism for this book, it is that I didn't love what was done with Hap. And not that I didn't love his storyline. Like, it was good for him to go through, to have that young, passionate love, to have bad things happen. But Hap felt very much like a tool for Fitz's character development rather than his own character, which is rare for a Robin Hobb book. I think all the characters feel so well realized and we fall in love with them. And I understand there's just not enough time to spend on everyone, but I think this is a very significant relationship in Fitz's life. The child that he did get to raise, the child that he raised by choice, and, found family, or family, choosing to be family, is a big theme in Farsi, or in general in the realm of the Elderlings. And so I would have liked to have a little more character behind Hap instead of just always him being Fitz's boy and then being a vehicle for Fitz's deliberation / character development. So that's one person who I felt was poorly done by in The Tawny Man, and it obviously did not affect my enjoyment of the trilogy whatsoever, but I would have liked to know him a little bit more and see him a little bit more and feel a little more attached to him. It's nice that he's going to be a minstrel. I think that's fun. It's a fun twist of fate. And speaking of minstrels, I guess I'm happy for Starling. I don't know. Hopefully she'll be less of a crow now that she has her own baby to take care of, and she, has that she doesn't have to feel insecure about, and she can stop being so mean to Fitz and probably everybody else around her. I did like that Fitz also challenged Chade a little bit and kind of took on that mantle of king, even though he's not going to be king, even though he's never going to publicly acknowledge any of the influence that he holds over the throne. It was nice to see him finally say, I am a Farseer and I have a say in what is going to happen here, and to help Dutiful with his marriage. That scene was really nice, and I thought that it was nice that Fitz got to tell Dutiful when he wasn't sure how to greet Eliana when she runs in and she's like, I had to be here, I had to love you, and he's not sure, should I be reserved, should I be kingly, should I show her how I feel? And he says, show her how you feel, you don't get another chance at that, which was really nice. I liked seeing him be there for Burrich's children and the relationship that he seems to be developing with each of them. I figured things were going to be rocky with Nettle, and to be honest, I thought it was going to last longer than this. I thought we were going to end this book with her not really wanting a lot to do with Fitz, and this was going to have to be a relationship that slowly came together in the final trilogy. But it's nice that she seems more forgiving. It's really sad that she has been clear that she does not want Fitz in her life in a father-type role. But you know, Fitz has made decisions too, not always the good ones, which I think was also a big part of the Tawny Man was coming to terms with, you know, you can try to protect people, but you need to let people make their own choices. And even if you love them, you need to let them choose what to do for themselves, which Fitz seemed to get right with the Fool at the end of things, but was still trying to protect the Fool in the beginning as well. And I guess that is the last point is, I'm really happy that the final words from Fitz were that he is content. You know, he's happy. He went back to Molly. He's feeling good. But I'm really sorry to Rob and Hobb. But after the sweeping, life-altering, all-encompassing romance, I'm going to call it, because that's how I feel. That's what I feel it was between Fitz and the Fool. I cannot feel as invested in Fitz and Molly. I think Fitz will be content. I think that he will be happy. I think that he will, you know, have a slow, happy, stable life. I mean, he won't because he's Fitz and there's another trilogy, but presuming that this is where it ended, we could assume that he would have a nice, slow, stable, happy life. But I still stand by what I said before, that they loved each other at 16, and I know Fitz just got his 16-year-old emotions back, but if I think of myself at 16 versus myself at 36, like Molly at 16 versus Molly at 36, like barely the same species of creature, just so different. And I'm not a big fan of this, she was with Fitz, then Burrich, and I totally understand, no judgment, no anything, and then Fitz comes back in again. Like, it's just a weird little tangle that I'm not here for. And I think that was both really good for me and hard for me, because as I said before, I love an unrequited romance. I do think that it hit all the harder because we know how much the Fool loves Fitz, and it's, as the Fool said, all encompassing, right? It's not necessarily sexual. It is just everything. He wants his whole heart. He wants Fitz's whole heart and cannot imagine sharing him with somebody else. And Fitz wants a happy, simple life, which he's going to get at least for a little while. We'll see. But overall, I loved it. I thought it was very sad that the Fitz and the Fool missed each other again, ships passing in the night. And I'm really relieved to know that there's another trilogy where the Fool comes back. I can't imagine what kind of shape I would be in if I was reading these as they came out and was not aware that there would be, 7 more books. I wouldn't have been able to cope, I don't think. So I'm glad I'm coming in and reading them at this time. But yeah, I had a great time. This was wonderful. I loved it. I would love to jump right into Fitz and the Fool. I will not. I'm gonna read through Rain Wilds, and I actually really like the Rain Wilds as a place. I think that their close quarters with dragons, all the things they do, I think that's all. I think Isaac woke up and is like yelling Pippin. So I should probably go see if Pippin needs to come in. But yes, looking forward to reading Rain Wilds, but very much looking forward to getting back to Fitz. So we'll see how long it takes me to get there. But thank you to anybody who watched these very long and rambling and emotional vlogs. and I'll see you with another one soon. Bye.